Okay, and welcome back to episode, I believe, 11 now
11.
of After Dinner Conversation, short stories for long discussions. I am your co-host, Kolby, with
Jeremy.
who's
Jessica.
And Jessica. And Jeremy's wearing a shirt from where we are today.
From La Gattara.
From La Gattara, yeah, where all these cats, except for this one, who's like a permanent resident, are available for
adoption.
adoption, yes.
Yes.
Or you can come and just pay some money to hang out with them. After Dinner Conversation is a podcast, as well as a website, as well as Amazon ebooks, including the book we're talking about today,
The story.
Rainbow People of the Glittering Glade. And so we'll
By?
by. That's a great question, Jeremy. Hello, Kitty. You're sitting on my.
It's in here. David Shultz.
Thank you. The cat's sitting on my thing there, which you're allowed to. You keep sitting, kitten. Right, and so you can download those, read those. You ideally should read them beforehand, before doing the
I would
listen to
say
the
this
podcast.
one in particular.
In
Yeah.
particular,
is-
yes.
It's a lengthy piece, but totally worth it. Is a fantastic story.
Yeah.
And we're going to be really, I think, diving deep into this one about the world that was created, and so I
Yeah.
think you really need to read before you.
And I would say for me, we've had a lot of stories that I've liked. Certainly, I've liked the discussions of all the stories
Yes.
and the questions they ask. This is one of the stories where I just really loved it. Like I read it and I wanted to talk to people about it, and I wanted to ask questions about it, and we were trying to like hold off on our conversation before we started taping,
Right.
so we didn't talk about it beforehand. This I feel like this sets a new bar probably for some of the best submissions we've gotten.
It's really well written. It's an interesting topic. The
So
really well
world
developed
building is really
characters.
good,
Right.
yeah.
And it's longer, which is usually hard to keep up that sort of level of interest for that. It's easy to do like a 3-page story that asks one question. This is a 15-page story that asks 15 questions. It's really solid. And so I think, did I draw the short straw this time?
You did.
Yes.
Okay, so I am not as good as Jeremy or Jessica at
I'm not good. Thank you.
at the summaries, but I will try and summarize. So basically, we're in a sort of fictional world where it maybe has like other stuff going on. It's probably otherworldly, but it's intentionally vague about it. And 3 people on behalf of the kingdom are sent to the shifting desert to find a rumored community that is violating the social norms of society, and that they're practicing slavery, that they're, I think, human sacrifices, and just cats and dogs living together. And so they wander through the desert to find this hidden place in kind of a Lewis and Clark expedition sort of thing. It makes it even more interesting in that because of the plate tectonics of where they are, which is why you kind of think it's probably not on Earth, there are minor plate tectonics. And so even if you're walking in a straight line, the ground underneath you literally can slowly be moving you off course because the tectonics are shifting all the time. And so it's particularly hard to find this community. The 3 of them get to the community. In the process, I think 2 of them become injured. One from like a sprained ankle or something. Or
Broken arm,
Yeah.
and the other's bit by a venomous
bit by
snake.
a venomous snake. So they sort of stumble into the community on their last leg with not much, and running out of water, and they're just in
Right.
bad shape.
One's like a warrior.
Yeah,
One's like a religious person.
right. I
And
feel like
then-
we're talking about Dungeons and Dragon classes.
Right.
And one is a dwarf. No.
One is a cleric.
Yeah.
So one is a
One's
religious
the
person.
government envoy, the scholar,
The scholar.
the
that's it.
warrior,
Yeah.
and
The religious person.
Yeah.
The
So
cleric.
religious
Cleric.
person, scholar, and
Yes.
and warrior.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, and one of the things that's interesting that sort of is the teaser in it is as they get closer to the community, they start to see statues out in the desert.
Pure white.
Pure white, like marble-looking type statues
Statues.
that are exact replicas of people. And then as they get closer to the community, the statues are moving, but only in a repetitive pattern.
Right.
So it's just like one short motion, like kind of like Chuck E. Cheese, right? Just one sort of thing
Yeah.
over and over again.
Like an automaton or something.
Yeah, but they can't talk to them or communicate with them, and they're not as marbleized. They have
Right.
they have an ashen look to them, and so then and this is all, of course, very freaky to them. When they stumble into the community takes them in, and you learn the story of what's going on.
Right.
And in essence,
Oh, and
Yeah.
sorry.
No, go
I was going to
jump in.
say, so they heal them.
oh, that's right, they heal them, of course,
They heal them.
using way better healing abilities than they have.
then the cleric has.
Yeah,
Right. Then the cleric has. And the cleric is the only one that's not injured. The warrior and the scholar are the one that is injured.
Right.
And as they are healing, they learn more about this community.
Right, because they can't leave immediately because it takes 3 or 4 days or a week for their sort of wounds to heal up. So they can't just immediately turn. And one of the things they find out in sort of their research to bring back to the kingdom is that being in the community is a double-edged sort of thing. One, you get all of these sort of great knowledge and great things, and you live in this sort of idyllic community in the desert that is, they don't know war and they don't really know famine, and they all have, goals and purpose. But you will slowly stonify, for lack of a better term, and you'll become one of the people they saw when they were coming in. And as you turn to stone, you will want to, through whatever process this curse has, make you want to isolate yourself from the community. So the people that are just outside of the community are the ones who are more recently sort of stonifying, and they can still move a little bit. And the ones that are farther out from the community are the ones who have totally turned to stone and are now essentially dead, which I believe, what did we say
they're called the Drull.
The Drull, yeah.
What they refer to them.
Drull, I think is how they spell it. Right. And so you immediately this process immediately starts within days unless you are accepted by the community. And the way the community...
Well, and it's explained to them that...
You have to have value, right?
Well, it's because of the magic in the area, and I think it's even presented as magic, that this is the cause of this. This is the power that heals you, but it also turns you to stone.
Right.
Yeah, it's inevitable if you don't have...
If you don't go through this process.
Right.
Right. And so... everyone in the community can be a part of this process to not turn to stone, but they have to be sort of selected or voted on by a panel of
the community,
elders or the
judged
community.
valid.
To judge valid. And all 3 of the people that wander in are judged valid. The scholar because of their scholarship, the warrior because of the athletic prowess, and the cleric because of their devotion to God, even though it's not their God.
Right.
Totally fine. And so they're all... So they take them down to the inner chamber where there is, I guess, like a giant floating crystal that is so perfect that it's like a god figure crystal. And then they, for lack of a better term,
they get a tattoo.
They get it. Yeah, they kill
one of the Drolls.
It sucks up the essence of the Droll into the crystal.
Yeah.
And then
it becomes ink.
Becomes like a tattoo machine.
And then they tattoo it on their forehead.
On their forehead is the one that keeps them alive.
And
seal.
And that keeps them from ever stonifying. And the scholar and the warrior choose to take the serum, or the magic thing, and the religious person, because of their religious beliefs, chooses not to.
I would not say we are clear why she chooses not to.
That's true.
You say because of religious beliefs.
Maybe
That's
not.
never articulated.
That's
true.
It is
sort of articulated.
No, I disagree.
Maybe I just assumed it.
I disagree that it's articulated.
Right.
Show me in the story.
All right. Jeremy's going to start scrolling through. And so then they heal up, and you go back and you realize that the story that you're reading is the letter that the emissary, the main sort of emissary person, the scholar, has given to the warrior to return to the king.
Correct.
Because the scholar has chosen to go native and live in the community.
Yes.
The warrior has chosen to go back and use some of that technology to help them in war.
So I want to clarify that point. So after the seal, they also can get additional tattoos that will enable them to become better warriors or better whatever.
Allows them to run faster. Go longer without water.
Well, it was almost like photosynthesis. Like you lived off of the rays of the sun.
Yeah. It also sounds complicated. This is why we're saying this is one of the stories you should definitely read.
Yeah. And then the price is that you have to go find one of the Drolls and bring it back in order to get these additional powers.
Right. So if you want to, and one of the things they talk about is that ideally you should be the one to pick the Droll.
Correct.
And I think, to me, what I got from it was the implication is you shouldn't pick randomly.
Right.
That it should be somehow related to something that has either meaning to the tattoo that you're doing, or meaning to you.
To
you or the skill that you
want. Yeah, it must have some personal attachment to you.
Right.
And then the Droll gets its sort of life sucked out, and it gets turned into its blood or whatever, gets turned into more tattooing, and you get the tattoo from the essence of the
tattoo,
Droll to give you the ability to run faster, jump higher, or whatever.
So I cut you off, but then at the end of the story, it's this letter going back to the kingdom. The scholar has gone native, the warrior's going back, and the cleric is a Droll now.
Has become a stone.
Yeah.
Or is almost through the process, I think.
Right.
They're pretty close to the process.
Right.
And so you're essentially reading, you don't know at the beginning so much, but you're reading the story from the emissary to the king about why, here's what I saw, and by the way, I'm not coming home.
Yes. Yeah. He's totally,
Okay, so we're both right.
Oh,
let's hear it.
Okay, Cyrena refused the seal. Cyrena's the cleric.
Cyrena's the cleric.
There is little that I can say of her reasons for doing so, which were expressed not in terms of logical rationales, but rather emotional aversion and visceral distaste. So we see his view of what her reasons are is a emotional reason not to do it. I attribute her attitude to the strength of her devotion to her faith. It is to her credit that she resolved, even in the face of such beauty, to abstain from what had been offered. This is a rare and commendable ability, perhaps one that is honed by fasting and chastity, the regular refusal of our natural inclinations.
Okay.
So it doesn't outright say it, but you're sort of like, eh.
Well,
right.
he thinks it's religion.
His impression.
But it might not be.
But it was an emotional and visceral reaction.
So can I just talk briefly about one of the things that this writer does that I was like, wow, like I've never read that, is he does a couple of times, he does a thing where he doesn't do like a he said, she said, he said, she said. Instead he does something like, we had a conversation. While I don't remember everything, here's what I took away from it. And it's sort of like he's paraphrasing the conversation for you, which once you realize it's a letter, makes perfect sense that it wouldn't be a he said, she said.
Right.
Because that's just not the way you write letters, and it's not the way you remember stuff.
Well, and I
thought that was a really apt tool.
That is an apt tool. I also think it's a great tool to indicate perhaps bias.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is what I took away from the conversation. Oh, I'm not going to see that conversation?
Right.
Okay. So
Right.
I this is your take on that conversation, which is just the good bits that you think,
It comes back to the idea of the unreliable narrator.
Right.
We have to take his word on it.
Yes.
It's his story, his version of what happened.
Right.
Now, they can talk to the warrior who returns to corroborate.
Who for sure would have I think the warrior for sure would have had a different take on a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and like when I read this, I read it as sort of, it kept making me think of like reading some of the Lewis and Clark like primary sources.
Yes.
Where it's like, I know you're trying to be faithful to what you saw, and I get that you're trying, but I also get that like you've never
seen this.
You've never seen this before. You've never experienced. And so I appreciate the effort, but I'm not,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Jeremy, what do you?
I really like this story.
Yeah, you also liked it a lot. So we're unanimous on this one.
Oh, it's a great story.
Yeah.
I love the way it's presented, the way the culture is presented, the way you're given these three different views of what's going on and three different options.
Like a choose your own adventure book.
In some ways, and
I would read this story 2 more times from the other two characters' perspectives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just to see what their take on it is, it would be great.
A little.
If you're listening.
If you're listening, writer, please.
Get a little Canterbury Tales-esque, right? 3 pilgrims, different takes.
What's that Kurosawa movie with the 4 versions?
So you go Kurosawa, and I was going to go with that one where they car wreck, where the 4 different people all come to the car wreck and leave the same. It's like
they based it off the other one.
Of that? Yeah, sure. Jeremy, I'm curious. So there are some ethics. I mean, obviously we're gushing over the writing because it's gushing worthy, but there are some ethics issues.
Absolutely.
What did you think of the drull? Like, as you're reading it and thinking about it, what was your opinion about?
Well, it's interesting because it's the society that decides whether or not you're worthy of getting this tattoo.
Oh, I should also mention one other thing too. You don't start to stonify unless you've hit puberty.
Okay.
So it's not like a baby has to prove its worthiness.
Right.
Worthiness. You've got.
It's a little like Logan's Run.
Yeah, you've got 12 or 14 years to know what's coming. And to like mentally get yourself to be like, look, I got to up my game. I got to prove myself, because then at that age is when it starts to happen. Mm-hmm. So you're choosing at some level the effort you're putting into creating your worthiness.
Well, that's some real pressure. It's not just like, are you going to get into a good college or not?
Yeah, you want to talk about a final exam, right? That's that way is worse than the Ames test.
Yeah, it is. It is an ethical conundrum because, again, it's the society that's determining your worthiness. So it isn't, shifting morals and shifting values. How do you know? It's not like there's an SAT you have to pass.
What if you focus on a good mile time and it turns out they don't need milers anymore?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But you get the impression that they're not, because they were really free to give it to the 3 people that came in.
But those are 3 outsiders that can go report back and get people to come and kill them, right? It's so lots, right? And they already, I mean, I'm going to assume that they know that this outside kingdom has already dubbed them human sacrifice, slavery, right? Like, they already have a bad PR rap. Like, of course they're going to be like, here you go, free stuff for you, right? Like, it's the it's the vendor who buys you dinner, right? Like, it's not. I would say that it is very biased that they.
So you think they're being shown the best parts of the community?
Absolutely.
I think
somebody even brings that up.
The warrior does. The warrior totally is suspect of all of their motivations.
Yeah.
The emissary guy is like, no, let's just be cool.
Yeah, let's be cool. I think I'd
be cool, honey bunny.
Here.
So one of the things that I really loved about this was I was struck with the question of why would you be a droll, right? Why wouldn't you try, like, if you know it's coming, like, and it doesn't sound like there's a limited number of slots or whatever, like, why would you choose that? And then it occurred to me, everyone around me in society chooses that every day.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, every person who, like, gets up and goes to work and comes home and watches TV and, like,
it's a culmination of all the things.
Their lawn.
It's how you were raised. It's all of your decisions compound on previous decisions.
I felt one of the really great things about this story is it created a more in-your-face example of the thing that people in real life do every day, right? Like I feel like there's a lot of sort of drolls walking among us. People whose, like, their biggest thing that they're waiting for is to pay off their mortgage or to, like, it's just... Like,
or not even that, just making next week's rent.
Right. And it's a complete lack of, like, belief that you can craft yourself or your society around you to your hopes.
So I totally disagree.
Good. That makes better discussions.
Yeah. So I got from the discussion questions at the end that you would go this way.
Yeah, because I write the discussion questions.
Yes, you write the discussion questions at the end. So I do think it's a reflection of society, but I think it's this wonderful reflection of society of how... I know where you're going. Yeah.
How we judge people's value.
Who gets to pick what's worthy? Women's work is never worthy. Never. It's something that we never consider to be part of. Do you work or do you stay at home? Right? Guess what? Staying at home, freaking work. Like, it's not. It's especially if you have kids, right? It's very ableist. You're able to work. Your worth is determined by your productivity and success based on the productivity and success that I want as the judger.
I'm judging you based on my values of what I think has value.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I have a counterpoint for this.
Sure.
I would agree with everything you just said.
Yeah.
Except what the drolls are doing.
Okay. Tell me.
Because before you totally are turned to stone. Mm-hmm. I took their repeat action as the thing that they mistakenly thought mattered that they couldn't let go of, right? Whether that's gardening or prayer or whatever. The thing where they're like, no, I have to keep the floor mopped because that has value. And so you sort of solidify into that valueless action until you truly are gone.
So here's my disagreement
on that.
All
right, let's hear it.
If I grew up here, sorry, Jeremy, we are
that is fine.
Letting you talk. If I grew up in the society and I knew that the society would not determine what I am doing as adding value, perhaps I'm a woman. And they don't think that women's work is valuable, or perhaps I do something that I'm a writer, and they think art sucks, right? So I have a choice because I know there's a slim...
So as we get closer to the community, we see you writing
right
over and over and over again because you've been pushed out because they don't value writers,
right? Because they don't value writers, or they don't value artists, or they don't whatever. I get a choice at some point.
I think you're about to change my mind.
That I either get to try to have a slim hope of redemption. So my droll action will be whatever maybe will redeem me, because they do. That's the thing about the story, is they maybe pick somebody to redeem. The woman that shows them around is this
who has been
advocate
redeemed.
of redemption. Yeah. I either do an action that maybe they'll find redemptive. I'll do gardening. I'll hold up the bridge, the aqueduct that collapsed, which happens in the story. Or I do what will make me happy, because that's what I'm going to do until the end of time, because the chance of redemption is so slim.
I think, though, and I think that's why the story's so interesting, is I think that is the choice that the cleric makes.
Right. She does what she loves.
The cleric says, look, I understand that you don't think what I'm doing has value.
Yeah.
But it's
that
important
doesn't
to me.
mean it doesn't have value.
Right.
And so I'm perfect. Like, I know that I'm not going to heal fast enough to get out of here.
Right.
And I know that I'm not going to change the core of who I am to impose, to take on your value system.
Right.
So I'm willing to sort of die with my value system.
Doing what I love.
Doing what I love, knowing that you don't value it.
Right.
And I think in that sense, the cleric is an admirable character.
Well, and
much as anyone.
I think the droll are admirable. I mean, it just depends on
why they're droll.
Well, and I think the idea...
There's a guy just like playing PlayStation, eating Cheetos.
Dude, that's what he loves.
And I'm like,
it's his life to choose that.
Why can you force me to not eat Cheetos and play PS4?
And what I will say is, like, this idea that this worthiness on the backs of others is the part that kills me. Like, that's what I think creates a great moral ambiguity in the story, though, right? I don't find it. I think it's immoral. I don't think there's any ambiguity.
They think they're essentially feeding on the dead.
Right.
But of course, to the dead, they don't think that.
Correct.
Jeremy, and what about the class structure that is creating the values that they're judging on?
Right.
In terms of they need drawl to get additional skills, so wouldn't you game the system to create more drawl?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So that you have
you got more to feed on.
More to feed on.
There can never be this society without the droll.
Right.
There can never be this American society without the people who pick up garbage, with the people who work on Amazon, their droll life, making it week to week, paying their rent. We can't have this society without
the droll. Unless we feed off of them, so to speak.
We feed off of them. I think this is a great mirror of what society does.
I think you might have changed my mind, actually.
I love that.
No, I'm totally fine to have my mind changed. That's why I want to have these conversations.
Just not with me.
No, I mean, you're wrong. But you changed my mind.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly allowed to hold two contradictory opinions of you simultaneously.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Jeremy, what was your take on the choices that each of the three characters made? Were you respectful of all three, or did you sort of stack them in order of preference?
I think it's presented very well that they make the choices that are suitable to them.
Suitable to their traits, so to
traits. So the cleric absolutely makes the choice not to do this because it's morally offensive to her to do this, and that she has such faith in her religion and presumably
and sees value in it, even if it is valueless to others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other two, perfectly. It makes sense that they would make these decisions.
What about the fact? So Jessica has a problem with the society in that they sort of feed and level up on others. But at some level, the emissary, I don't know why I keep calling him that, but that's what I'm going to call him.
Yeah, he's the emissary.
Yeah. He has chosen to do the thing that Jessica has a problem with. Mm-hmm. But you don't have a problem with him doing it.
Well, I think it makes sense to him, and they're gaming him so that he writes this letter.
A lot of moral relativism going on there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and so
it doesn't mean he's right or wrong. It
just means he's different.
Well, it's the right decision for him.
Mm. So one of the things that I thought about at the end of the story, because I do have problems with the society, right?
Yeah.
But we've all met me. I'm not the cleric, right? I'm not
Didn't you just in the last episode say you were like, my husband had a 70% chance of living, so I abandoned him?
Yep.
Maybe we don't let your daughter listen to that episode.
Let's not let her listen to that.
But Alex, it's okay.
Alex, I'm so sorry again. I love you.
Well, we know you just swim out for your daughter.
I would absolutely swim out for my daughter.
Yeah.
But so we know I'm not the cleric. I'm not going to self-sacrifice and do. I'm not going to write and not live, right?
Yeah. Yeah, which one of these 3 characters are you?
So, but I'm not any of these characters. But the question is if I'm in this party and they offer you the seal, and you know the choice is really I either become a stone statue doing what I love, or I get the seal and have a chance of escaping this place and warning other people.
Come back with the nukes.
Right. What do you do? Like, do you get the seal knowing that somebody dies on behalf of you, but then the hope is that you would save more people? And the shifting sands, like, the chance of finding this people again is very hard.
Right.
You know, it's interesting. I didn't even, until you brought it up, I didn't take the droll as being alive. I in my mind, it wasn't feeding off the living; it was feeding off the dead. Mm-hmm. Because in my own bias, I think, which you slightly changed my mind on, I feel like it's okay to feed off the dead because they've already chosen to die. Mm-hmm.
Well, and that society has set up that. Like, everybody in that society believes that. You can't live day to day believing. I mean, we believe that every day. We believe people that clean houses make that choice. We believe, the people that can't find jobs make that choice. Yes.
It's another good metaphor for A-type people who look down on anybody else below them who aren't like absolute achievers. Why would you not be the best person you could absolutely be every day?
Yeah.
Right. It's like, well, maybe I just want to be happy, and this makes me happy.
Well, I mean,
I struggle with those people.
I'm definitely a type A person. We all know me. But my therapist was very much like, you keep climbing a career ladder. Do you want to keep climbing? And I was like, I don't know. I haven't thought about that. Really? I'm just looking for the next. This is what you do. Right. This is the next thing
I just saw a mountain and I climb mountains.
Right. That is exactly. So it is, I think that is very much people look down. Kolby and I had this conversation where we always want to make other people's businesses as efficient as possible. We want to make, restaurants work better. And what if we don't care? What if we just let people just live their lives and they don't want the most efficient restaurant? They just like this experience.
It reminds me of the story.
It works well enough.
Yeah. We're like, I'm happy. Like, why do I need to be like, am I going to be happier if I have more business?
If I'm making 10% more money.
Right. I make enough money to do what I love. And what I love is sitting and playing PlayStation on the couch.
Yeah. And I get that you judge me, but I'm happy.
Right.
It reminds me years ago when I was working at a job that was a little bit of a droll job, I have to admit. A droll job? Yeah. I think that's part of the reason why the name is chosen, too. Is I was talking to a coworker about, like, I need to do more with my life. And he's like, you remind me of the guy who went to the Amazon and saw the guys hanging out on the side playing soccer and pulling fish out of the water once in a while to eat. And he said, no, you're doing it all wrong. You need to set up nets, and you need to have a factory, and you need to process it, and you need to sell it, and you need to have higher margins, and you need to get into a global market. And the guys said, why? He's like, well, so you can sit on the side of the river and play soccer with your friends all day and fish. And they're like, yeah. And
it's a great
story, right? And I feel like that's the case where it's like you chase this thing. I'll tell you one thing I'm glad the story left out, but I definitely thought about it, is it kind of made it clear that if you were 13 or 14 and starting to enter puberty and you had a problem with this, I don't know why you had a problem with it because you grew up in the culture and you wouldn't know any better. The shifting sands and all of the trauma would make it almost impossible to escape.
Yep, absolutely.
Like there is no ability for someone born into the community to opt out of the community.
Right.
Well, and it's impossible for those 3 people.
You can't leave Omaha in this case.
You can't. These 3 people, can't escape.
Right.
You either turn into a droll,
or you accept,
or you accept the emblem and then leave. So, and it's interesting, I think, is that this letter comes back and it's like, no, they don't do human sacrifice. They absolutely do. And
I did not think they did though until you sort of talked about it. Now I get it better.
And then so you didn't answer my question. Do you get the seal and try to warn people, or do you not take the seal because you know you're taking somebody's life?
Oh, I totally get the seal.
Seal.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I understand that you think your life has value. I don't think your life has value.
Oh my God.
And therefore, no, I mean, if I'm being honest, like I would like to be less horrible, but I'm not.
Right.
Right. Like I look at someone like Elon Musk and I think he's worth more. Like that he.
I definitely don't.
That
guy's a jerk.
But here's the thing. I don't care that he's a jerk. I care that he's pushing us as a world slightly, just a hair beyond where we were yesterday.
Okay, but for the record, Elon Musk is one of the droll. I am sacrificing that dude to get the seal. Just telling you.
Yeah.
Even though there's a chance of redemption for him and he could go change the world.
Yeah, I feel like
I'm first.
I feel like 99% of society lives off the sort of invention of 1%. Right? And I would put you in that 1%, right?
Oh, that's so sweet.
But
he's gaming the system, so you write a good letter.
Right, but a lot of people will never even have the smallest bit of like adding to like whether it's cell phones or space exploration or understanding of psychology or medicine, or they really do data entry for a living.
Right.
And I just am like I want to be a better human being and this is one of the conversations like 5 episodes ago. I want to be more empathetic to that person, but I'm perfectly fine being like, yeah, no, you're food.
But we need people to do data entry. We need a lot of people to do that job.
Well, and I think it's one of those things, I don't care about the data entry or the invention part. I think for me, it's the skew of you think the furthering of humanity.
Right, you're overlaying your values on someone else's choices. Is
the goal. And I think the experience of life is the goal.
Right, and that's just a different perspective that the society has now overlaid on people making this choice. Right, like I look at Switzerland, and I'm like, yeah, 300 years of peace and prosperity, and you gave us the cuckoo clock. Like, I don't think that's impressive.
Don't they also do really good chocolate?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they do really good
neutrality.
They do vaguely. They do unethical banking.
They do a lot of unethical banking. Well, and I think it's one of those things like just, to be clear.
But that's totally my overlay of values on society.
And I will say, I think, like, I'm a humanist. I think society, I think humans, I think we're all very amazing people. But at the end of the day, I do think it's so big and it's really about the experience. For me, it's a lot of the Carl Sagan of the living in that moment and being part
Absolutely.
of that.
I'm going to call just a hair bit of bullshit on this.
Oh, tell me.
You just said earlier, like, I see a mountain and I have to climb it.
Yes.
So what you're saying is you understand that you overlay your values on your choices in ways that where it overemphasizes the value of achievement and sort of ticking boxes and goal setting and like moving the ball forward.
Yep.
And yet you're also saying, but what I really want to do is fish by the river.
Yeah, absolutely. So society, just like society devalues women's work, right? Women also devalue women's work, right? So I have been raised in a society where success is, fair. And so of course I'm a box checker. Of course, I love that sense of achievement.
Actually, I feel like both sides of the scale are sitting on each side of me here.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, Jeremy, I feel like in some ways you are the guy, and I don't mean this as an insult. I don't mean this as an insult at all, but I feel like you want to be a good father, you want to be a good friend, you want to be a good
fish by the river.
Yeah, fish by the river kind of guy, and you're genuinely happy, and it genuinely makes you feel good, and and Jessica being kind of the other end of that spectrum.
I'm a bit of
I definitely understand your point that there's a place for both of those kind of people.
Yes, sure.
Thanks.
Good news. Today we don't eat you.
We don't eat you today, but just so you know, Kolby's counting down the days. If you start getting a little ashy.
If I'm peckish, it's going to be bad for you. Yeah, well, we went a little bit long on this one, not surprisingly, because it was amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you if you're going to submit something, you should read this story.
Yeah, Rainbow People of the Glittering Glade, which is on afterdinnerconversation.com.
It is. And also on Amazon and
anywhere you get.
And actually, you know what I'm going to do,
podcasts.
just so that people know that this is the kind of thing we're looking for? I think I'll link to this in the submission page.
Oh, I think that'd be
great. So that they have, they can be like, oh, let me read a sample of the kind of thing you're looking for. Maybe shorter, if longer's struggling for you. Jeremy doesn't like to stay up late reading. But,
no, it was just a busy day yesterday.
I think this is exactly what the website was created for. And I was very happy to get it. So thank you, person whose name I don't remember.
What's our author? Let's give him some proper credit.
Seriously, he's a rock star.
David
Shultz, who, by the way, I think this is amazing, has degrees in cognitive science, philosophy, law, and education. Because why not?
That guy. Checking boxes.
He's checking boxes, which is ironic that he writes his story then too, right?
Well, maybe because he's like me and learned.
Yeah, maybe he learned
Kolby.
I'm sorry. You are listening to After Dinner Conversation, short stories for long conversations. You've been joined by myself and Jessica and Jeremy, and we had a great time talking about rainbow people of Glitter and Glade. If you had a good time listening to us, please like or subscribe. Please come to La Gattara. Get a cat. They are available for adoption. You can come and pay $10 and just hang out with them if you're in Tempe, Arizona. Additionally, go to Amazon and you can download any of the books. This one plus probably 15 or 20, 30 other ones. I don't know. There's a lot of them now. Candidly, not all of them are as good as this one, but many of them are very, very good. And they certainly will encourage you to have really good conversations with your friends or with your kids if you want to have literally a conversation with your family. Gasp, who does that? About things that matter outside of Game of Thrones.
Also good ethical and moral dilemmas.
There are actually.
Yeah, it's a
I drink and I know things.
I drink and I know things.
All right. Hey, thank you. Bye.